Today on Investigate TV Plus, claims of poor and costly care.
When I went home, I literally took off their bandage, washed it out with soap and water, and put Neosporin on it myself.
We go in depth and get expert advice to avoid unexpected bills if you take a trip to the emergency room.
Plus, a look at what's being called the #1 nuisance on phones.
You've got everything from, hey, you want a prize, to, hey, you owe back taxes and we're going to throw you in jail.
Ways to protect your money should you get suspicious texts.
The whole time you're thinking, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
A terrifying crash sends a packed bus into a creek and complete strangers run to help. One of the rescuers shares her story.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Going to the emergency room is stressful enough, but the cost can make that trip even worse.
One woman claims she went home with little care and a large bill, then had trouble getting answers from the hospital. Carice Jackman partnered with Kaiser Health News to investigate the challenges that come along with costly care.
It's an ER visit Lee Fava says left her with a large bill.
It was just outrageous. $700 for a shot?
Unanswered questions.
So there were all sorts of things on that bill I wanted to dispute, but I couldn't even get a person to respond to me.
And a poorly wrapped bandage.
When I went home, I literally took off their bandage, washed it out with soap and water, and put Neosporin on it myself, because that was actually more than what was done for me in the emergency room.
Fava went to the ER in November 2021 after injuring her thumb while on her front deck.
Obviously, when you have an injury like that, the first thing you need is a tetanus shot. And so, among other things that were done as far as ointments and things like that, they did give me a tetanus shot, but they ultimately charged me almost $700 for it.
She says there were a few items on her bill that just didn't add up, even though she works in the medical field.
I wanted to dispute the tetanus shot because I thought it was outrageous. I wanted to dispute the level 4 emergency room fee because this was not a level 4 injury. This was a level 1. This was basic. And I also wanted to dispute the medication that I was charged for that I did not actually get.
In emergency rooms, patients are coded at certain levels depending on the severity of injuries and the diagnostic tests done. The higher the level, usually the higher the cost. Despite sending letters and calling the hospital, Fava says she was ignored. She reluctantly paid her remaining balance, around $785, to avoid it impacting her credit, but wants a refund and answers from hospital administrators.
Lee, how would you describe this entire ordeal in one word?
Disappointing. Very disappointing. I am not in a financial hardship because of this, but I know for a fact that there are people out there who are getting billed like this on a regular basis.
Surprises on medical billing is an issue medical billing experts say patients have battled for years. The Department of Health and Human Services says more than half of consumers in the U.S. report having received an unexpected large bill. And according to the Kaiser Family Foundation's most recent poll, 58% of adults say they're worried about unexpected medical bills.
In KFF polling, 6 in 10 adults reported worrying about affording unexpected medical bills, and so unexpected medical bills are pervasive among people with and without health insurance.
You work specifically reviewing medical records as part of your job.
I do.
And for you, this is complicated.
I know what I'm looking for when I look at a medical bill, and I know the language. I know how to say, I want an itemized statement, not a bill. I know the difference, and I know how to tell people what it is that they need to give me in order to get me to satisfy a bill, and it didn't matter.
We discussed Fava's situation with Dr. Elizabeth Rosenthal, editor-in-chief of Kaiser Health News.
When she got her bill back, she saw a lot of things on there that just didn't make any sense. She was charged, or it appeared that she went to a level 4 emergency when all she had was a thumb injury.
Right. Now, this is something you can successfully argue back against. If you know all they did was put a Band-Aid on a cut and maybe wash it out a little bit, a level 4 emergency room visit, there are parameters for that. You have to be seen for a certain length of time. There has to be an intense level of care. You know that that didn't happen, so you can say, this wasn't level 4, this was more like a level 2.
Sometimes you have no choice but to go to the ER. But Dr. Rosenthal says if you can, look at alternative ways of getting treatment.
If you have a cut on your hand or you think you just need stitches, go to urgent care, because every little thing that's done to you in an emergency room, whether it's a CAT scan or putting on a Band-Aid, is probably going to be upcharged by a factor of 10. So, and that's hard to argue because ERs are allowed to charge a lot for things.
We reach out to the hospital ourselves to see if they could address Fava's situation. In a statement, the hospital said a thorough investigation of the billing charges has been reviewed and found all identified charges are appropriate. They went on to say they identified one item where Fava was undercharged, but they will not be pursuing additional reimbursement from Fava or her insurance carrier. Fava says she had little hope that the hospital administrators would give her a refund, but that's not stopping her from sharing her story. She wants to help other patients avoid a complicated and sometimes costly ER visit.
I think we need some sort of reform where things are charged as what their actual cost is, or at least somewhere near what their cost is.
To help reduce the likelihood of people receiving an unexpected medical bill, federal law requires hospitals to publicly post information about standard prices for common health services.
The goal is to promote competition and encourage consumers to compare prices. However, 2 years after that bill took effect in 2021, the Kaiser Family Foundation called the process messy, inconsistent, and confusing, making it challenging, if not impossible, for patients to use. The foundation believes federal regulators need to set a standard format for how hospitals should post that information. There's also the No Surprises Act, which took effect in 2022. Part of the law makes it illegal for patients to pay higher out-of-network prices for emergency visits.
It's tied up in several court cases, so if you receive a surprise bill and you can't get enough support from the hospital, United Healthcare suggests calling the number on the back of your insurance ID card to see what options your health plan offers.
Next on InvestigateTV Plus, there's a crackdown on car warranty calls, but the robo-text just keep coming. What's being done to stop the scam text clogging your phone?
Plus, a ride-along with deputies finds distracted drivers.
Obvious when you see somebody drive past you and they have the little white earbuds in.
An in-depth look at how drivers using headphones are impacting police and their response times.
Stay informed online. You can follow InvestigateTV Plus on all digital platforms.
You're not even hitting the brakes.
Nope. Nope. Second one.
A police dash camera captures a dangerous problem across the U.S., drivers not yielding to emergency vehicles. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration finds critical minutes can be lost if drivers don't take those sirens seriously.
Reporter Sarah Thompson goes for a ride-along in Wisconsin to see what's distracting drivers.
As sirens blare, we start the clock. Dashcam captures the view from behind the wheel as a Brown County deputy races to a 911 call for an unconscious person laying in the road in southern Brown County in January. Even with his flashing lights and loud siren, the truck in front of him doesn't move over, doesn't tap the brakes, just doesn't budge. The 2-lane rural road in snowy conditions with oncoming traffic gives the deputy no other options than to wait. Finally, 30 seconds later,
get over.
The truck driver sees the deputy and moves over far enough to let him pass.
That's the frustrating part. It's very common for officers to run into that.
As the director of patrol for the Brown County Sheriff's Office, Captain Dan Sandberg hears it from his road officers frequently. We want to see just how often it happens.
It's way too common.
So we hop in a squad with Deputy Justin Raska and head onto I-43, where he often runs traffic enforcement.
Normally it takes a couple of minutes to find somebody going 85, 90.
It doesn't take long to spot speeding. We pull into the left lane once it's safe, Raska activates the sirens. Watch this white car on the right. As we quickly approach, we never see brake lights. We do see exasperation from the deputy, throwing his hands in the air as we pass, the driver appearing unaware of his emergency vehicle. But keep watching this next car up ahead. As we approach the red SUV, sirens still sounding, lights still flashing, its speed remains constant too.
You're not even hitting the brakes.
Nope.
Not even hitting the brakes.
Nope. Second one. And I gotta be careful so I don't end up getting back over.
Even though those cars are in the other lane, Raska, who trains other officers in emergency driving, knows he has to approach cautiously in case a car makes a sudden move. These don't, and we pass them quickly before making the traffic stop.
What do we have? 2 vehicles that didn't pull over for our lights or sirens?
We don't know the reasons those cars didn't seem to notice his squad car, but what our cameras capture concerns emergency workers. Why don't people move? You probably already guessed the answer.
It's one of two things. They're either not paying attention, they're just plain out not paying attention, or they're on their phone. It's a 50-50 shot.
Sandberg argues drivers should see them coming, but acknowledges sometimes emergency vehicles are approaching so fast it's hard to hear the sirens because of speed and distance. But there's often another reason.
Or you have people that are wearing earplugs now, and listening to music and stuff while they're driving and stuff.
It's obvious when you see somebody drive past you and they have the little white earbuds in.
The other excuse he hears, the radio is too loud. For comparison, normal conversation is around 60 decibels. The loud radio, around 85. But a police car that's right behind you, the Brown County Sheriff's Office says that's around 110 to 120 decibels.
People have so much going on inside their cars that doesn't pertain to actual driving. That's the frustrating part.
With dash cam always rolling, drivers who don't move can be ticketed later. But that's not the goal. Attention is. Every second they have to wait behind a distracted driver is another second delayed responding to an emergency. And sometimes seconds are all they have.
If you choose to wear earbuds while driving, a 2021 Ford study of European drivers found those listening to music with headphones are typically more than 4 seconds slower to identify a potential hazard than those not wearing headphones. It could also be against the law. It is in these 8 states. In another 8 states, drivers can use one earbud, mainly for phone calls.
From empty promises to the fear of losing your account, scammers target emotions to get your information.
You'll act quickly, you won't think as much, you'll click, and they'll have you.
Security experts explain the warning signs within robo-texts and why trying to opt out may open the door for more. You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime streaming online. Get the app for Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. They're free to download. $1,100 gone in a click.
Learned a hard lesson the hard way.
Con artist fooled a delivery driver into giving them access to his DoorDash account. It started with a phone call claiming an order had been canceled, but the driver would still get fully compensated for the delivery. The scammer then texted the driver a link and convinced him to click it. A veteran DoorDash driver met with the victim to talk what he calls a rookie mistake.
When you're new and you're confused and it's late at night and you've been dashing all day, you just go, oh, I guess this is the Dasher support, you know. I fell for it too.
DoorDash picked up the tab on his stolen earnings, reimbursing him most of his paycheck as a one-time courtesy. It's an example of con artists looking to cash in when they can.
A crackdown by the Federal Communications Commission helped to slow the growth of spam calls. But according to RoboKiller, a spam call blocking app, from 2021 to 2022, Americans still saw an 8% increase.
On the other hand, in 2022, an estimated 225 billion robo-texts were sent, a 157% increase from the year before. We investigate scammer strategies and ways you can protect yourself. Red flags pop up all over this text, from the lengthy email address to the misspellings. But that isn't stopping scammers. An FBI report found con artists tripled their earnings in internet scams over the last 5 years. And its Internet Crime Center reported victims lost $10.3 billion in 2022.
In order to do that, they have to turn off that rational thinking side of your brain. They have to get you into this loop that you have to rush to action, rush to judgment, that there's a time limit.
Chris Pearson, an internet security expert, says the messages use fear to trick people into believing their streaming account was hacked.
Right now, people losing access to Disney, Hulu, Netflix, their Amazon Prime account. Those are things that get people's blood moving.
RoboKiller reports the states with the most people generally receive the most robo-texts. California led the way in 2022, followed by Texas, Georgia, New York, and Florida. Rather than tracking the number of scam texts, the FCC catalogs consumer complaints, which jumped from 3,300 in 2015 to nearly 19,000 in 2022. To combat the increase, the FCC adopted its first rules, specifically targeting scam texts in March of 2023. It requires mobile service providers to block certain texts that appear to come from phone numbers that are unlikely to send messages. The FCC says this includes numbers that have been identified as never sending text messages, such as government agencies. But experts say that may not be enough.
To be honest, I'm unaware of anything explicit that you can do to just stop it.
While you're likely to get scam texts, Garrett Smitherman with the Better Business Bureau says there are steps you can take to protect yourself.
If you spot a scam text, do not reply, just delete it. And even if it says, reply stop to end this text, don't do that.
If you reply, you may be putting yourself on a list as an active number, and those texts will ramp up even more. Or worse, if you click on a link.
If you actually go that far, that might be, you hear these scenarios where people's accounts get drained. That's how that stuff happens.
Just like that DoorDash delivery driver, the BBB recommends keeping track of the text alerts you've signed up for so you can tell those apart from potential scams. The FCC also suggests keeping your smart devices and security apps up to date.
Good Samaritans jump into windows, grip onto seatbelts, and wade through water, all in the rush to save a sinking school bus.
I could hear people on the bus, and right away I thought to myself, there's people with special needs. There's kids with special needs on the bus.
Hear from a woman in that video about the daring rescue.
You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime online. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel at Investigate TV. You can catch stories in full episodes. A pickup truck sideswipes a school bus in Richmond, Virginia, and sends its driver and students down an embankment. Little did they know help was not far away.
Anthony Antoine shows us their rescue from a rising creek.
Meet Ann, a behavioral health nurse at Bon Secours St. Mary's Hospital.
It was a regular day. I came to work. I left work.
Ann says she was on her way to pick up her son from his day program on Hull Street.
And I just saw the bus ahead of me, and then I thought, what's going on? That car just came across the road, and then it hit the bus, and then the bus went off the road and hit the guardrail and went through the guardrail and then down an embankment, and then it flipped on its side. And the whole time you're thinking, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Questions racing through her head.
I'm a behavioral health nurse. I don't work with critical injuries. What if they're really hurt?
She made her way down the embankment.
I could hear people on the bus, and right away I thought to myself, there's people with special needs. There's kids with special needs on the bus.
The students, still strapped in their seatbelts, now lying in rising water. In less than a minute, help arrived. Two men climbed through the driver's side window and quickly unbuckled the kids. A third man attended to the driver, and simultaneously, more Good Samaritans poured in through the back of the bus, including Ann, seen here in the white coat.
but they were so scared. The kids were scared.
She says the emergency alarm made matters worse for the kids.
You could hear the kids, the distress caused by it, or putting their fingers in their ears.
And directed someone to keep their hands on a button to make it stop. The next step was to communicate an important message to others outside the bus.
The instructional assistant had already said they are a flight risk. They're so scared, so make sure that they don't run into traffic. Of course, we didn't realize they'd stop traffic down the way.
The man seen here in the gray pants held on to the hanging seatbelts to create an unobstructed path for the kids to get off. One by one, they and the driver were taken to safety. Anne was one of the last people on the bus, collecting their book bags and tablets, all of her experience kicking in.
Well, I taught 5-year-olds for 17 years, and I have a son with special needs, and I've worked as an instructional assistant for a few summers in the special education system, so I just knew.
When asked how she felt after the incident,
just thankful that I was there. I don't think that it's something that I really needed to be recognized for. I think there was a whole lot of other people there that day that also could have been recognized and should be recognized.
Thankfully, no one had any serious injuries. And to see that water rushing onto that school bus was terrifying, but the right people were in the right place.
The right people, you said. I mean, so many heroes there coming through there, and just being able to see those pictures just shows you how scared they must have been on the bus and how really heroic it was being there.
But
wow.
The ending was so much better than it could have been.
No doubt about that. And that is it for us today from Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm T. Chappelle. Thanks for watching.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, AirTags at the center of stalking complaints, how Apple is responding to concerns, and why some critics say it is not enough.
The only safe version of an AirTag is an AirTag that's being pulled from the market.
Plus, we'll explain ways to protect yourself from unwanted tracking.